Hello and welcome everybody to this week's DevCentral Connects. My name is Boo, one of your community evangelists on the F5 DevCentral team. This week we're going to have an exciting show. We're going to be joined by guest Sarbjeet Johal. He's an independent industry analyst, cloud analyst, and he was recently at CES, Consumer Electronics Show. And I thought that was a really cool show to go to, not just because of all the fun toys that are there, but in particular, Sarbjeet he took it from the approach of looking at how all of this consumer electronics is actually intersecting with cloud compute, the stuff that our audience is building day in and day out and maintaining and operating. And I thought he pulled valuable insights from that. So I'm really excited to have him on. Before I do bring him on, I just want to remind everybody, you may be watching us live right now. You might be watching us from YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe on Facebook. I'd love for you to hit like on that. That helps us out with the algorithm. Hit subscribe. Please do leave a comment as well. We'd love to hear where everybody is watching us from. It's really neat to see all of the different cities and countries that people are viewing this from. Also, you might be listening to this via podcast right now, or if you are watching this, you might not know that we're on and available as a podcast. So you can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. So please subscribe to us on there as well. And if you are listening right now, we'd love for you to leave a 5-star review. That helps us out greatly as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Sarbjeet Johal. Sarbjeet, how are you doing?
Good, Boo. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. You're not in although you're always in different places, but today you're in a special location. Maybe you can give us a little highlight of where you're at today.
Yeah, today I'm at the Cube studio, SiliconANGLE, the Cube studio in Palo Alto. There's a live show which will go for like 7-8 hours, starting at 9 o'clock. It's around SuperCloud 2. It's called SuperCloud 2. We did SuperCloud last year. It's about the platforms we are building on top of hyperscalers. So I'm here for those discussions. I will be live at 9:30 actually, 9:30 to 10.
Okay, that's fantastic. If you're not familiar with the cloud, they do awesome coverage of shows and of current technologies. F5 has participated in that. So most recently, our high-end song and Dan Woods was actually joining the folks at the Cube. I think it was at AWS reInvent, if I'm not mistaken. But that's actually over on the F5 corporate YouTube channel, and you can also find it on the Cube content as well. And Sarbjeet, maybe for our audience who might not know who you are, maybe you can give us a quick 30-second on what your role is in the industry.
Yeah, my role right now in the industry is as of analyst, and I do consulting as well, mainly go-to-market consulting in the cloud area. And cloud touches almost everything these days, right? So, but my background has been in the software development for first 15 years of my career, and the next 15 to 17 years into ops area. So I have worked at companies like Oracle, EMC, VMware, PeopleSoft. Visa was the only company where I worked, which was non-tech, but it was still tech, right? So a bunch of companies, Rackspace included. And I've been very close to the build of the cloud. Actually, I was at Rackspace when we open source OpenStack. I was at VMware when we launched the vCloud Director in the rooms, in the strategy sessions, when we were picking the providers to give the technology to and so forth. Yeah.
Oh,
been
fantastic.
around for a while.
So it's almost like you're seeing your baby kind of grow up.
Yes. Yeah. I grew up with I usually say that I moved to Silicon Valley in 95, and I grew up with the browser, and then spent my teen kind of years of my career with the cloud.
Yeah, very cool. And so most recently, now you go to a number of events, and it's fantastic to watch your coverage of these events and get your perspective on it. And especially now knowing a lot more of your background around, your perspective, or how your perspectives were created around cloud computing. Recently, you went to CES. we converse sometimes on Twitter, and I asked you, hey, was this a planned thing? And you were mentioning, yeah, you've been to a number of CESs at this point, and you look at it from an interesting perspective. I think, a lot of people, when they go to CES, they're more around, hey, what's the fancy TVs and what's the new, audio video type stuff. And you looked at it from the perspective of cloud computing, and, with all of this fancy technology that's coming around, what is the compute and architectures that's going to power it? So maybe we can get some highlights from you. What kind of things stood out in your head that we need to watch for?
Actually, just giving you a little background on that. In 2020, I went to CES. In 2020, that was the last in-person CES, and that was the first time I went to CES. As you said, like CES stands for Consumer Electronics Show, and most of the B2B technologists don't go there, right? They think it's just consumer tech. I wanted to explore in 2020 because we know that enterprise sort of technology and the consumer technology is becoming sort of intertwined, if you will, through cloud mainly, and of course through the edge computing and IoT side of things, because everything, right? I usually say, if you're in the things business, like your thing will become Internet of Thing at some point in future, if it's not right now. So things are getting connected to the internet, and hence the needed to go there. And I enjoyed 2020 as well, but more so this year. It was a little lighter show, but there's more presence of from the technology companies, which I actually want to see more of, to be honest with you, from the data related companies like Snowflakes of the world and others. But AWS was there, a big presence, and so was Google, and Google Cloud presence was there as well. Bigger Google sort of umbrella company was there. And same with AWS. Amazon was there. Amazon's auto division, which is a parallel division to AWS Cloud division, I was told. It's not a part of it's not a subdivision of AWS, if you will. They had a big floor, sort of area, and they were showcasing so many technology related to auto. By the way, on that note, the CES has become a big auto show. Like, there's a big presence of auto companies, because autos are becoming like computing, data centers on wheels, if you will. All these cars need a lot of compute because of the need for self-driving. Doesn't matter what level we talk about, level 3, 4, 5, So we need a lot more compute to analyze what's around us and interpret that, and so that we can steer the car and put the brakes on when there's somebody in front of us. So that was there. And of course, Microsoft, I didn't mention them, they were there as well. So the top 3 cloud providers were there. And my goal was to talk to different companies, different vendors, and behind the scenes kind of vendors. They also sort of are there. They normally, these kind of vendors, which are behind the scenes, they use these core consumer brands as proxy of their brand, if you will. So they market through them, if you will, right? So, for example, a few actually discussions stood out. One was with the Bosch. Bosch is number one, I believe, number one worldwide component provider to the auto industry. So all these little sensors, and which a lot of people don't know that, but I didn't know that either before 2020, because at 2020 I interacted with them and got to know that. So I spoke to them this year about their cloud consumption, and it was a great discussion. We can talk about it further based on your questions and all that. I don't want to just go on and on. If you have any particular questions, I can address. For example, I'll give you a little information on that discussion. So Bosch is using AWS mainly, but Bosch's customers are BMW and Mercedes and all these other companies. Most of the car manufacturers or car brands, you can say, they are their customer. So some of their customers prefer AWS's backend, some prefer Google Cloud, some prefer AWS, Azure, for example, right?
Hmm.
So on the back end, they are trying to create a platform which which can plug into any of the cloud providers, right? And that, by the way, later they will include Chinese providers when they are
Mm.
selling their technology to the Chinese car manufacturers, right? So they will go to Alibaba on the back end. So they want to create an abstraction layer between cloud providers and their platform, what they provide to the car manufacturers. So that was a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, that is actually pretty interesting. So, that probably ties into what some of the conversations that you'll have later today around supercloud, but being able to
Yeah.
harness different clouds and still building with that independence so that you have compute is essentially sovereign from the cloud that it might reside on, but might not reside on. And at that point, Bosch, um, they're are they going to operate a PaaS, or do they want to build something that people can deploy as their own PaaS, or the manufacturer would deploy as their own PaaS?
They will bake these things into their platform, like a car operating system, you can call it.
Mm,
By the way, Qualcomm had their big presence there as well, so they were showing off the other cars. Like they showed Lucid, actually. AWS
mm,
showed Lucid car as well, and Qualcomm as well. So they, and no, actually Qualcomm built their own car, their own concept car. It was very
mm.
fancy looking dashboard and all that. But AWS was showing the Lucid car, and I think I did the tweet just for this reason,
Yeah.
like last night, about the Alexa demo in the Lucid car, and there were so many actually parts in the car, like in compute, like smaller compute units, and which will come into play, and in AWS, likes of AWS, for example, and Azure and Google Cloud, they have their miniaturized sort of devices which will come into sort of um, come into play to work in the IoT sort of space, if you will, right?
Hmm.
Um, so your question was, oh, the
Well,
platform, yeah.
yeah.
So they will bake it into their platform, and
Okay.
then the developers who are developing core, your dashboards and or interactivity and upsells kind of stuff, right, in the car.
Hmm.
So they will use that platform.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just going to note here, we normally start at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So if you're just joining us now, we started a little bit earlier, but we've got Sarbjeet on. One of the questions that we do have is from Aubrey that I'm going to bring up actually is AI going to play a heavier role in consumer electronics? And was this a big topic at CES? I know, I had an article that I was reading this morning about ChatGPT, Microsoft already integrating that into Azure and having a GA offering for that. So maybe we could talk a little bit about AI and its fit in consumer electronics.
Yes, actually, AI is being built into consumer tech, left and right. Like from very cheaper consumer devices to very expensive ones. Like the variation is it varies a lot. In the one fascinating thing about going to CES is that you get to see that devices at different price points for different
Mhm.
people. For example, even the goggles for VR, AR, the price points are from, like, let's say $200 to $5,000, even more than that. So a lot of vendors, lot of sort of uh, alternatives, if you will, for different economic sort of categories of countries, people. Like they can't afford, $5,000 headset, for example. They will go for lower end, but the software and the AI is being used in all of those, for identification of objects and uh, um, rendering of characters, and the biggest use of AI right now, and in for the near future, I believe, is the language side of things, right? So all these
Mm.
big models are large language models, and based upon that, we end up, creating sort of what we call generative AI in case of ChatGPT. So basically, we are processing just human languages, right? So we're trying to make sense of it. Like we're trying to interpret what question you asked and what was the key what were the key phrases, and then it does this sort of self focus on the question itself, and then um, actually I've shared a few videos on that, like how these things work internally, because till last year AI was still like, "Hey, it's a little far in the future, we shouldn't be afraid of it," and we thought that the AI and automation through AI will take away the blue collar jobs first, but it has flipped in a way
Mm.
that AI is more, actually seems like it will take cognitive jobs. It will impact our cognitive jobs more than the blue collar jobs, because it can process that language um, very effectively, by the way. But there are some limitations as well.
Mm.
And it AI models are trained on based on data, and the data, for example, ChatGPT 3 is trained for the data till September 2021, for
Mhm.
example. And anything after that, it doesn't know about it. But going forward, there will be mechanisms to plug in the latest information or feed that new data to these models on ongoing basis. And these models have um, hundreds of billions of parameters, which is crazy. Actually,
Mm.
I did this tweet many times, that the smartest system is the one which can take into account most number of variables while making a decision. I mean, that's what these models are. So when you have 320 billion, whatever that number is for Chat GPT 3, I think it's around that, between 300 and 400 billion parameters. It's a crazy number,
Mm.
right? And it will
Yeah.
go into trillions and tens of trillions in future. And it's all enabled through the cloud, to be honest with you, because you have that capacity to train the models in cloud. And on that note, tying it to CES, there was a company from Europe. I It was not a very common household name. I wrote that name somewhere here. They were training. Um, they help the car manufacturers train their self-driving modules virtually in cloud. So they
Huh.
said about 95% of the scenarios are covered by driving on the virtual roads, and
Huh.
they can train their models on virtual roads. But the actual training, the last 5% happens on the actual roads, where the potholes are, where the road closures are, and all that. They said most of car manufacturers use their technology. So there's a lot of simulation we are sort of using to build these products, or digital twins, what we call it, and to design these products and to test these products to most extent, if you will, in cloud. So sorry, I was
Mm.
drifted from AI to the cloud.
Yeah, no, that's
My
very
default.
interesting. We do need to train these AI models, and then beyond that, maybe after the cars aspect of CES, what is the next biggest industry that you would see at CES now?
After the cars, there was a lot of computing related stuff, like the PCs
Mm.
and uh, the headsets, which are computing devices as well. The mobile is huge, like mobile phones. The TVs are big, like
Mm.
at CES, and yeah, those are the ones which stand out. And then of course the AV, the audio visual, the Canon was there, and Nikon, and big camera companies, and how they are bringing in the AI into. Canon bought an AI company to identify people, objects, and all that stuff,
Mm.
and they can do lot of processing on the movie and or the photos you are taking with cameras on the fly. So it's crazy what actually, if you want to see the future, which is like 5 to 10 years even down, you should visit CES. You'll see
Mm.
that lot of cars concept, headsets concept, kind of like futuristic things, which are not even working in many cases, but the design is there. So it stretches your mind to imagine more possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. And then when you have, when you said that Amazon was there and they also had the Amazon as in terms of automobiles, it would AWS and um, those folks be versed in the cars, or would the cars folks be versed in AWS? Are they separate booths and you're having separate conversations with them, or how well is that intertwined?
Oh, okay. The auto unit is separate. For example, for AWS, they had some separation, but it was within the same area, but kind of a
Mm,
little separate area. But next to it was a lot of startups. Were like AWS was showcasing. They do that at
mm,
their reInvent event as well. So they bring in. They have like few areas at reInvent, but here they had one area where they have like booths for Stripe, which is the fintech, and many other companies. Actually, have the video which I will share in coming few days about what were the different companies, and I spoke to 3 or 4 of them. What were they showcasing? So there was more than auto, of course. There was
mm,
uh, like one interesting one was that the AWS has a big ad business as well. After Google and
mm.
Facebook, I think they are number 3 in ads,
Oh, really?
right? So they have ad
Interesting.
platform. Yeah. So there was a company which is sort of augmenting the data, the data you can get from about the consumers on AWS by bringing in the external data about the same individuals, same households. So they were showcasing their solution for people who want to do ads and marketing and all that stuff. So that I thought that
Wow.
was interesting. So even
Yeah.
somebody else is like augmenting that data. There were a bunch of like um, so um, use cases, if you will, shown by these 10, 12 vendors about the cloud usage and leveraging the data which they have in some cases at Amazon overall. Forget about AWS alone, right? So,
Yeah.
so that was a good example of the ad sort of platform. Somebody
I
is
suppose they have a
augmenting that.
frightening amount of data. Like if you count, you have, first of all your purchases on Amazon Prime, you have all the things that you say to your Amazon Echo and Alexa
Oh yeah.
devices. You have your doorbell that knows the people coming to your door and the deliveries and how frequent you buy anyways. Maybe your buying cycle is an indicator. They have your Whole Foods orders, I guess, at this point too. They know what you eat. So yeah, they've they've got a pretty
Yeah,
good
Amazon.
system.
Yeah, Amazon has a lot of data on us, and Google has a lot of data on us. Like when we search in, Google Maps and Google whatnot, right? And
Yeah.
then Microsoft has a lot more data on us. It doesn't seem like that, but
Hmm.
I when they acquired uh, LinkedIn, right? So they have,
Mm,
I said they have the data about world's talent, where who is going where. You just having the
yeah.
metadata around that. Just imagine if they are not even tapping into the actual data, just having the metadata, just how many people are moving around. Um, that is huge, right?
Yeah.
And they have they got the Git repository, so they have the repository of the code of the world,
Hmm.
number 1 repository that is, and the number 1 talent database. Access to that, Microsoft has it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty wild. All right. So I won't keep you longer, Sarbjeet. I know you have to head off. You've got a exciting event today with the folks at the Cube. Maybe you can give us an idea of where to find or watch that stuff.
Oh yeah, just go to thecube.net. So it will be live at 9, and it will go till 5, and there are a bunch of sessions. Register for the event so that you can watch these later as well. Watch the live if you can. Ask questions, and we will be looking at those questions. And some, by the way, some sessions are live, some are pre-recorded, so it's a mix of it, because not everybody can be at a time in a studio, right? So it's going to be great, actually. It just opens up your mind to different possibilities and how we are consuming cloud and how we are going to consume edge data at the edge, and how you know the whole thing is going to work, and what are the gotchas, and how the developers are impacted, how the architects are getting impacted by this these moves, and yeah, where the money is flowing into. That's also
Yeah.
part of it.
Fantastic. Great lineup there today. So if folks don't know, there's that website, and then on the show thread, which I will attach to this as well, all the contact for Sarbjeet if you want to connect with him on LinkedIn, Twitter, and his website. So thanks a lot, Sarbjeet.
Yep.
I will let you go ahead and get ready for the show.
Thank you. And to your community, anytime you guys need to pick my brain or anything, just DM me on Twitter and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks, Sarbjeet. See ya.
Thanks, Boo. All right. Bye.
Alrighty, that was great having Sarbjeet on. I always love checking out his content. He's got great insights, like his background in actually growing and building up cloud with the various vendors that he's worked with Rackspace and with VMware. I didn't know he was actually part of the original vCloud Director stuff as well. So that's really cool, because that was some of the original infrastructure as a service concepts for enterprises. So fantastic to have him on. Like I just mentioned, there is going to be a show thread for this. Actually, it's already created, and that's on community.f5.com. So if you go into that website, you're going to want to go and check out the groups. You do have to sign in. Very easy to sign in. Just use your email address. It's free, of course. And you're able to check out all the forum posts that are happening on community.f5.com. But there's also groups, so you can actually dive into the groups. So you head over into the navigation bar. There's a groups drop down, and then you'll see a group called DevCentral Connects. And within there, you have to request to join, but it's free. Within there, you'll actually see all the show threads that happen for each show. And then there's going to be links to our guests and their content. And also when we discuss the news, which we didn't quite get to today, there's links to that as well. So there is actually some news articles that I did post in there. Would love to expand those conversations with folks on community.f5.com. But we'll save that for the forums. Please leave some messages on there. Would love to chat with you about some of the articles that I put up around an African gaming startup, malware coming up on some of those Android TV boxes, which is a conversation that I just had with Aubrey 2 weeks ago, and Microsoft offering ChatGPT on Azure already after just last week announcing their second big round of investment with ChatGPT. So really exciting stuff happening in the industry. We'd love to chat with you all about it. And again, if you have not already, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, subscribe, hit like, leave comments. You can find us on podcast format as well, Google, Apple, and Spotify. With that, I am going to close things out for this week, and I will see you all next Tuesday, same time, 8:30. Bye for now. Well, thanks for checking out that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You might want to check out one of these videos over here. And if you haven't already, go check out community.f5.com. This is where all the DevCentral Connects hosts hang out, as well as the rest of the community. It's free to sign up, and we'll see you there.